I'm really embodying the Daredevil now. Yeah, yeah. You don't like that, do ya? Do you, buddy? Yeah, I'm getting the hang of this. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Screen Tested. I am your host Tyrant, where we take things from pop culture and put them to the test. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be focusing on the Daredevil BillyClub, something that I'm actually quite interested in testing because, well, it's more of a self-defense weapon, and not only a self-defense weapon, something that I think is kind of realistic. Now, you can kind of see where I'm going with today's video. First up, it's basically a stick. Now, sticks are good. Everybody knows that a stick is good, but it's not just a stick. It actually can be two stick. Yes, two stick is also good, twice as powerful as one stick. But then we also have the added, I'm loath to say functionality, but we have the added benefit. We have the added benefit of it also being a sort of nunchuck. So you get three for the price of one. But I do want to be fair about this, and I don't want to put on blinders, if the nunchuck performs positively. So let's think about it like this. Nunchucks and stick coming together in a harmonious union. Should be fun. And on top of that, and nothing to do with how much I like it, it's also Tyrant Threat. Just happens to be a coincidence. But anyways, now I am starting the video off wearing a blindfold, and the reason why is really simple. I thought it would be good to try and see things from, well, Daredevil's point of view. And hopefully it can open my eyes to a new way of looking at things. Until I decide to take it off because, I'm making up arbitrary rules as I go. I genuinely cannot see in this. So this is the round stock that I'm going to be using for today's video, plus that extra bit. Now, these parts are a bit too long to actually fit on my machine, so I kind of had to wing it. I feel like that's the best way to describe this. Now that looks like it's running completely centered, doesn't it? Anyways, next up I've got a machine in these small little bands. But then after that, I'm going to use this tool here. Now it kind of looks like one of those weird things you would get in like a yoga shop to rub over your body. It even uses lube too, but it's not. It's a knurling tool, and what that does, well, it'll create the texture on the handle that'll give us that nice grip, so we have something to hold on to. I don't even have to use any hands while I'm using it. That is until right at the end where it's about to smash into the lathe chuck and explode into 1,000 pieces. That part always gets the blood pumping. Now I'm going to start working on the center portion of the BillyClub. This is a large piece of aluminum that I am going to slowly machine down. I always enjoy this part. This is where all those really, really hot bits of aluminum go straight onto my hands and burn them. I always enjoy this. But with that out of the way, let's see how all those parts actually fit together. Hopefully I got my measurements right. Oh, I better remove that, Easter egg that I didn't intentionally put there at all. Anyways, next up, I'm going to use some of this acetone here. This stuff is really good for removing the ink off the aluminum. It also has a double function of revealing all the little cuts I have on my hands as well. Next up, I'm going to paint the BillyClubs a nice, beautiful Tyrant Threat, something that puts a smile on my face. But then after that, I'm just going to drill a whole bunch of holes, put the steel wire in, and would you look at that, we are finished. So let's get to some of those beauty shots, because this thing is incredible. It looks great. It's functional. It works. In fact, it's so good that I don't want to destroy it, so I made another one completely from scratch. I didn't film it because I was tired of filming at this point. But now with the build out of the way, why don't I actually explain how this thing works, because it's kind of big brain if I'm being honest. First up, the staff is three separate bodies. We have the left, the right side, and then the centerpiece. The centerpiece has two spring-loaded switches. Now, for example, on the left side, when we click in that switch, it turns it into two separate sticks. But then when we put it back together, we get a full stick. Then when we use the button on the right side, it turns into a nunchuck. Everything is held together by the center connection. That is what turns it into all its different separate parts. Hopefully this diagram was helpful, but anyways, let's get into some of the testing now. Alrighty, how does this thing compare to actual nunchucks? Well, I think it's really, really practical. They work just as well as real nunchucks. Did I wear a blindfold the entire video to make that one joke? Yes, I did. Do I regret it? Absolutely not. Let's get started with the testing. Now here is the BillyClub that I'm going to be using for today's video. This is the second version. This here is the version 1, the one that's very screen accurate. Now I'm not going to be using this for testing, it's more just for demonstration purposes, but I really like it, so much so that I don't want to destroy it. This one will be the one for testing. This one is thinner, it has steel connections, and it's a little bit more robust, kind of in every single way. All right, so first up, testing it as a club. I mean, this thing is pretty good when it comes to being a club. It's a club. Then we can actually take this one off, and then we've got 2 sticks. Now, everybody knows stick is good, but then once we put it back together, we've got our club. Nice. But then, lastly, we have the nunchucks. Now, nunchucks are kind of the wild card because it's not really used as a nunchuck in the show. I mean, technically it can be used as a nunchuck, but it's more of like a, what would you call it? A garrote, maybe? I guess maybe that's the best way to describe it. It's just a long piece of steel cable, which is cool and all, but when it comes to actually making a practical version, it becomes kind of a nunchuck more than anything else. It kind of worked at rebound. I caught it! Look at that! It's dropped it. It's possible! Ah. Ah. That's what I'm talking about! So, the Daredevil BillyClub stick nunchuck thing. This thing is really cool. I'm a big fan of it, if you couldn't tell. Now, there are a couple of issues with it, and the first, most glaring one that I ran into a couple of times was, because it's symmetrical, I don't know which one does which. So which one does this do? This one's nunchuck. So there were multiple times when I went to go to grab the other stick, and all of a sudden I was pulling out a nunchuck. Wrong one. That's kind of the only big issue I found with it. That's easily fixed, just make one different and then you'll know which one's which. But apart from that, it was pretty good. The only issues I had was this steel cable, I'll get some B-roll, is actually starting to break. The steel cable, now this is rated for like 350 kilos or something. This is galvanized steel wire and it's starting to split, which I found fascinating. I also found another issue with using the steel wire was it's starting to bend, as you can see. This is supposed to be straight, starting to bend. So what was happening was parts were getting stuck in here. So when I went to go to close it, all of a sudden the steel rope was doing this and I wasn't sure why. And it's because it was actually getting lodged at the bottom half of the tube. So just little issues like that I was running across. But apart from that, I think this thing is really cool. Not only as like a self-defense type thing, but just as like a cool thing to have. It's a cool prop if you like any sort of self-defense stuff, EDC stuff. This thing is cool and you get your bang for your buck by having basically 3 weapons for the price of 1. Now, in terms of stick versus nunchuck, I honestly felt, I want to be careful how I say this, in this particular case, I found that the nunchuck was very dangerous, more so than the stick, because we all know sticks are good. All right, just bear with me before you leave a dislike. We all know sticks are good. The only problem is this is, relatively speaking, a short stick. So you don't actually have that much reach. Now it's more than enough to, like, if you're fighting someone who's unarmed, but I found that extra reach with the nunchuck, the garrote, whatever you want to call it, was really useful. But that pretty much concludes the Daredevil BillyClub. This thing is awesome and I'm a big fan of it. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe, and there'll be a video somewhere here. Click on it. It'll be a good video. I am very tired right now. So I'm just gonna sit for a moment. Let's sit together in peace. I'm just gonna sit.